Yes, y'all. So I am so excited about this upcoming episode because I have another amazing guest. She is a public librarian and the founder and president of the Islamic Library Association, Mrs. Khalisah Harris. So you all stay tuned because she is going to be dropping some gems, y'all, about how this library system works. Okay? Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Seisha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation, as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together, y'all. Yes, indeed. It can't be just one person, all of us on board. And that's why, as you all see on the screen, this beautiful, lovely face, okay, that is with me today, my phenomenal guest. I am just so excited that she accepted the invitation to come on to Real Reading Talk. Everybody, I would love for you all to welcome Sister Khalisah Harris to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome. And just so you all can know, okay, she is a public librarian as well as the founder and president of the Islamic Library Association, which I'm just like so excited about even learning about the Islamic Library Association. I had not heard of it until she and I connected via LinkedIn, you guys. So I want to welcome her to the show. And please, Sister Khalisah, can you please tell us about who you are?
Right. Well, thank you, Sister Seisha. I appreciate you inviting me here, having me here tonight to discuss, to have this conversation about literacy. It's very important. But as you said, my name is Khalisah Harris. I am a public librarian. I am also the founder and president of the Islamic Library Association, where we focus on pretty much highlighting the works of Muslim authors, publishers, illustrators, and educators, and to with the intention of having uh, Islamically faith-based literature um, equally and equitably and adequately included within the public library systems. We are part of the communities, and the books should represent that.
Yes, indeed. I thank you. And you know what? I just gotta, put you on the spot a little bit. You could tell somebody's very well read because their vocabulary be off the charts. You know what I'm saying? I love it. No, I'm messing with you, but I'm for real too.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very, very welcome. So I would like to know, and the guests would definitely like to know, like, give us background in terms of where did you grow up? So where were you born? And then were you raised in the same place that you were born at? And tell us about your family background.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Michigan. I currently live in South Carolina. I was born and raised Muslim, still Muslim, alhamdulillah. Um, I was raised in a home where there were a lot of books. My mother read to me, and I enjoyed reading. It was my happy place, no matter what was or was not going on. Reading was always near and dear to me. I've always enjoyed it. Um, but as I had gotten older, I had recognized that in all the books that I was reading, if you asked me at the time, I swore that I read every book ever existed for a little kid, and I never saw myself. And I still loved reading, and I was kind of convinced that I would find myself if I kept reading.
Hmm.
If I keep reading, I will see myself. So I was reading everything.
Hmm.
I wasn't seeing myself. So there were some very few literature that represented me racially, but religiously, no. I did have access when I got a little bit older to literature that had Muslims, but they were Arabs. And I was like, okay, this is great, but I'm not Arab. So it's the intersectionality that never really was just spot on for me. And I was Muslim, raised in a very um, practicing religious home and community. So it wasn't just my in my personal home. I was homeschooled, so it's not like I was Muslim at home and went to public school during the day. No, I was homeschooled. I spent a lot of time in the public library. And like I said, I was in a community of Muslims. So I saw Muslims all around me, and I did not understand why any book that I read did not represent my life. I like my life.
Mm.
So why? I mean, kids always want something that's not accessible, but I didn't have a problem. I loved and felt pride in being raised in a Muslim community. Even as a child, I appreciated it. I didn't, of course, I learned to appreciate it more as an older person, but I didn't see a problem with getting up for Fajr and, celebrating Eid and things that were important to me as a child. And not only doing those things, but as um, an American of African descent specifically. So all those different things, I was honestly seeking to see myself in the books because I love the books. I love reading. They had all kinds of adventures. So even back then, I felt I'm reading about other people and other kids. Who's reading about me?
Whoa.
And so that was, yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, I couldn't put it in those words as a child, but
Right.
that's what I felt.
Wow. Who's reading about me? Oh,
Yes.
you first of all, just so you know, when I'm looking down sometimes, okay, I take my notes. All right. Especially when my guests they say something that is like spot on, like right on point, that you are speaking to the hearts and minds and spirits of those young Muslim children who are growing up, especially in a society that is not predominantly Islamic, right? And
Correct.
then how you brought up the fact that these books, that even the Muslim children's books that you would see, these are books that have Arabs, or Pakistanis, right? Somebody who was not typically of African descent.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I converted to Islam. Actually, it'll be 32 years,
Oh,
inshallah, this month.
alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
mashallah.
yes, yes. So I definitely can say I've seen like the stark difference from when I became Muslim, and especially and then when I, was married and was having children, I saw like the minuscule pickings of books that represented us.
Yes.
And actually, I would probably say, I don't know. You tell me, because you tell us, you're the librarian, because you see basically, I'm going to say all the books, or at least majority of the
I
books.
see a
Okay,
lot of them,
you see a
yes.
lot of books, right? And I would say
Mhm.
maybe what has it been like? Maybe the last 10 years or so. I don't know. You tell us in terms of when we start seeing at least a little bit more of us in these books.
The library or in general?
Well, I would say
There's
both.
a whole lot of books that are Islamic books are not primarily in the public libraries.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, you need to, yeah, see. Go
so
ahead. Start
I
talking
started
about that.
seeing I started seeing some Islamic books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd say started seeing a few maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and even then that's touchy. I mean, I can say 15 years, but I don't really consider one book. I don't really I
You
don't
know
really
how
consider
folks
any
get,
book.
yeah, that one book. Look, here you go. Here
Oh,
you
it's the chosen book, Muslim book.
go. Right.
So no. So
Yep.
I'd say I did start. I would say 15 years ago we started seeing a little bit more diverse racially. I wouldn't even say religiously.
Come on.
Yes, I'd say that. I'd say 10 years they started maybe adding some more um, Muslim books because they're for everyone. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
be Muslim to read it. So
Right.
I try to say Islamic faith based because it's available it's for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say 10 years. But
Mm-hmm.
even then, with that, again, it still did not provide the full scope of different cultures within Islam. They'd have one book, it's considered the tokenism book, and it never showed, all of so many. Islam covers all cultures.
Thank you.
So, in all races. So you
Yes.
can't really break it down into that. It needs to be Islamic and then broken down because
Mm.
there's so many intersectionalities. Because even for example, if we have an Egyptian Muslim, but
Mm-hmm.
she grew up here, her culture is not going to be the same as if she was in Egypt, raised in Egypt. So I would, for me, I'm not Egyptian, but I would assume
Mm-hmm.
that she's Egyptian American. That culture is going to look different than an Egyptian who was born and raised there and is now 50 years old.
Right.
There's a difference. So, I mean, the books, books are supposed to represent the world, the
Mm.
world. And so
Mm.
we're part of the world. We're here.
Yeah.
We're alive. We're here.
Yep.
We're working. We're
Yep.
working. We're part of the communities. We should be able to see ourselves and people should see us because if we're only going off of the news, I'm not trying to call the news out, but if we're only going off of the news, if that's the case, we have a lot of problems with people only because of their race. So imagine, how African Americans are viewed or portrayed through the news. Oftentimes, of course, there is some good things on the news. You've been on the news before, you know. So there are some good things that take place,
Mm-hmm.
but when you only mention one or two good things and then you know 100 terrible things, it creates a perception that's um, not that it's not ever true, but it presents as if that's all that really exists.
Mm-hmm.
And then people look at you as such and treat you as such because they haven't, just like there's two sides to every story, that's literal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's literal. So we have this literature that should be included because it's part of it, and let us tell our stories by us for us. It's not, I don't need anyone else to tell my story personally. I don't think any child does, or
Right.
or even an adult for that matter. You need to the literature is not only for, like Dr. Bishop said, she's a children's multicultural literature professor in Ohio. And in 1990, she coined the phrase of books should be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. So ultimately, she's saying that children should be able to see themselves in the mirror.
Okay.
They should be able to see others through the windows.
Okay.
And they should have an opportunity to walk into other people's worlds through the sliding glass open doors. So if that's not what's happening, definitely not adequately. So, for example, I can see some people who may be Caucasian and Christian. I'm seeing them,
Mm-hmm.
seeing them.
Yeah.
They see them.
Yeah. Mm.
But where are the windows? Can they see me? Where's my mirror? I don't see me. And how are you having an opportunity to walk into my world? Because I can walk into yours, but you're not walking into mine. So now when you see me walking down the street, now you're thinking about what the news then told you. And you know, literacy. Okay, so not only is the importance of equity in literature such an essential part of life, but it's also the point and the principle.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is, you know, the books
Mm-hmm.
are opportunities to go beyond your immediate surrounding. It offers that opportunity. And I'm not a psychologist or anything, but there's tons and tons and tons of research about how literacy is impacted. A child's literacy levels are greatly impacted based upon if they can connect with the book. Well,
Yes.
how are they going to connect with the book if they're not seeing themselves or their families? And then let's even talk about the prisons that are built based upon the third grade reading level. So if you're not seeing yourself by the third grade reading level, and they're building, let's make this make sense. If we're really trying to improve society, because the children are growing up to be members of the society, they're the next generation. So if they don't see themselves positively, are they really going to be positive people? And is that intentional? Is it intentionally that way? I have my thoughts. I think that if it was equitable,
Mhm.
then you and I wouldn't be having too many conversations.
Of course. Because
You
what,
and I are not the only one.
yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you know what you're talking about. I mean, it's a system that was set up so that we do not see ourselves in any positive light, right? You know, I mean, we don't see ourselves in a way where we are human and we are bringing great things into society, you know. And of course, one of the things that I wanted to make mention of when you talk about the prison, how they build the prisons based upon, you know, the literacy skills of our youth. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Kaba Hiawatha Kameni. He is a scholar. And actually, I don't think he has his PhD. I think he's a lot of people, you know, how a lot of times people who are scholars, they give them their respect and they call them doctors, right? But he is a master educator. And he talked about how one of the reasons why they do the aspect, because, you know, from pre-K to third grade, you're learning to read, and then from third beyond, you are what? Reading to learn. And so he talked about it was the reason why they inundate our children with the George Washington, the Thomas Jefferson, the, you know, everything white is good. The Wright brothers, you know, they invented everything, the car, Henry Ford,
Yeah.
everything. It's a reason why, because of the fact so that when our kids, when they're reading to learn, now they're learning that you're a footnote in our history. We'll bring you in when we start talking about the little paragraph of slavery, you know, with like Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about, you know, that one little paragraph with the little boy or somebody playing a banjo, you know, with tattered clothes, right, sitting on the broken down porch, right. You know, they'll bring us in when it comes to that, or when they want to talk about some athletics, some entertainment. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to, I mean, simply put, I mean, please, the list goes on and on in terms of what people of African descent have invented, have created, you know, being astute in the sciences, math, all of that. They know that though. That's the thing.
Of
They know
course.
that,
Of course.
but it's done on purpose because it's like you weren't here to for your humanity to be brought forth, right? So I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head with everything, and that's why I mean, I first of all, that quote that I never heard of her, and that's why I love having guests on, because it's like you all just bring so many different aspects, so much knowledge to myself as well as to the community of people who are listening to the podcast. And so I appreciate you for that, first of all. So I'm going
Yeah,
to go do
thank
my
you.
research.
Yes, look
Okay.
her up. She's great. She's
Yes.
great. Yeah, she's done a lot. She's done a lot for Black literature, and
Mm.
for like right now, you know, it's February, Black History Month,
Mhm.
and several months ago, I had to do a presentation about Islamic literature, and I was compelled to bring up. So in this presentation, you know how you're going further and further, deeper and deeper to meet the goal. Well, it was pretty much one of the things that popped up was like, well, when did Islam really become a thing in America? And if you Google it, it says something like, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, but it's pretty much saying, oh, in the 1970s when the refugees and so us, whoops, whole mission is now changed. And
Mhm.
to go into
Mm.
a whole
Mm.
history
Mm.
lesson in that class that day because
Uh-huh.
back into know when y'all put them people on the boat, on the ship, that's when Muslims was in America. So don't act like we brand new and we
Mm,
only refugees. No, we
mm,
built this country, and we might not have been able to hide the complexion of our skin, but we did hide the religion, or you took it.
mm,
One of the
mm,
two.
mhm,
So to act, but and then to when I Google, you're talking about refugees. So you let's make this make sense. So I saw a post today on social media somewhere that said, I can't remember if it said Black History Month is Muslim History Month or it's the other way around. But either way, I was like,
mm,
oh my God, this is perfect. This is amazing. It's true.
mm,
Because so just like when
mhm,
black people aren't allowed to read, and then
mhm,
okay, you can read on your own, but you can't come into these public places.
right.
The public library, okay,
Mhm,
they held on to that a little bit longer than a lot of the other places did with the public libraries. But
mhm,
either way, it's still the point that I try to make that okay, however you want to word it, Black, African American,
mhm,
American with African descent, whichever term you want to use, the
mhm,
point still remains is that those are two things or two forms of identity that are often frowned upon, especially in professional settings.
mm, mm,
So we're talking about, DEI, and I've been on DEI boards since 2016.
mm,
Different organizations I personally haven't really seen, and I'm part of it. Like
yeah.
they're actually my experience with them public libraries is they were not designed to assist with black people
Mhm,
or Muslims.
mhm,
Now I will say BIPOC communities, yes, they do things specifically for people of color and things like that. That's
mhm,
great.
mhm,
But I say that to say the intersectionalities, like I'm saying, being black and Muslim, is an additional, I don't want to say a barrier,
mhm,
because it's been the challenges that like catapult me into working harder. You know, you can't
yes.
body down.
Yeah.
Who really wants to be up? You can create a lot of barriers and things like that, but that doesn't mean anyone's stopping. The importance and facts still remain the same.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, these black books and things like this, it's
Mhm,
essential. Why not? Why is it not equitably included?
mm,
In libraries, public libraries. And yes, I'm calling it out because it's the truth
yeah.
of the matter is that public libraries take a lot of pride in talking about equity and diversity and inclusion. And I sit in those
Mhm,
managers' meetings. I'm there. I'm a
mm,
branch manager. Okay. I have
wow.
2 master's degrees.
Mm,
And I sit in those managers' meetings and I sit and I wait for the whole spiel, and we have increased by 15% for this and 33% for that. And as they go down all the statistics,
yeah.
and then I say, yeah, yes. But can someone please inform me of how many of those books look like me? The
Mm,
whole and to look over in the corner. But so you're telling me I can work here? I
mm,
can work here. And I have said, and I mean it, and it's
mhm,
not being mean,
mhm,
but I was trying to bring it into perspective.
mhm,
That I can work here. I love working here. I love the public libraries.
yeah.
I'm quite tired of coming to work to serve everybody's people but my own.
Mm,
Imagine that. So you're enough to work here and provide services that technically are available for everyone, but they might not meet certain people's needs,
yeah.
my people's needs.
Right.
And that's what I'm here for. I'm here for everybody's needs, not particular people. So we're talking about equity,
Yeah.
then let's talk about equity.
Mm,
And we shouldn't leave it at talking. Let's make it equitable
mm,
because we're doing everything else we want to do.
yeah.
We're making it equitable for specific groups. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
So, public library world, but there's a lot to it. And I think many people, Muslim or not, Black or not, don't understand the impact. Sometimes, some people do not understand the impact of having books in the libraries, in the public libraries.
Mm.
It's not just the book itself, because people say to me all the time, well, are public libraries like going down? Like, who reads? Many people read,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
public libraries are not only, we don't only provide books. We
Right.
provide services,
Mm-hmm.
resources, programs, activities,
Yep.
so many things. It's more so of a community hub.
Yeah,
So how is it going to be a community hub if the community is not seen?
that's right.
And the books that are in the library, also there's still audio books and ebooks of the physical book, which
Mm-hmm.
counts towards people. So, there's foot traffic and there's virtual traffic. It counts the
Mm.
same and all goes towards funding. So that's great. However, it's not only that, that traffic determines, the funding and things like that. That's fine. But it also plays a huge part in the resources that are available,
Mm-hmm.
the services that are available, the activities, the programs. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that someone gives a program about a teen program on
Mm-hmm.
anything. It could be
Financial
teen
literacy.
lock-in. We'll just
Okay.
call it whatever you want to call.
Okay.
Well, teen lock-in might only spark the attention of a specific group of people.
Okay.
So we got to come up with another program. Teen lock-in, I'm a teen lock-in,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to also have to have a poetry slam. We're also going to need to have, a
Right.
party. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to start
Right.
doing things
Right.
but when you say these things, then it's,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, someone might be allergic to henna. Well, someone might be allergic to the peanut butter that we had in the s'mores last week. And it's called just sign a waiver. Like with everything else.
Right.
You
Right.
know, we say this is what it is. If you would like to bring your child, we'd love to have them.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you can choose.
Yeah.
Give everyone the choice.
Mm. Mm.
Give people the power that they're owed as human beings of a choice.
That's right. That's right.
As a parent, you can tell your child, I don't want you reading that. You can say that. What
Yeah.
about the parents who does want their children to read that? It
Mm-hmm.
should be available. And that's why libraries should not be ran on opinions.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
Should be ran on statistics. And
Yeah.
let's talk about who you have in your community. But here's another thing with that, and I'm gonna let you say something. I know I'm taking over. I
No,
apologize.
this is. I want you to keep educating. I actually have a couple of questions after you say this point, so you can keep on giving us education. So yes.
Well, if it's hard to even say based upon who's in your community,
Mm-hmm.
because every Muslim, what does a Muslim look like?
Mm.
What does a Muslim, honest to God, look like? You're talking about stereotypical? Because, okay, look at me. Okay, look
Mm.
at you. We have these hijabs. But did
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I know that you know, but I'm just going to say for the people who might not, there's women who cover less than us.
Yeah, that's right. Who
There's
are
women who
Muslim?
cover more than us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just the ladies. So what about the men? Is he supposed to walk around with this big, huge beard and kifayas and all these things? What does a Muslim look like? Can
Right.
you see into people's hearts? Do you know what people are
Mm.
practicing in the privacy of the home? Maybe they're
Mm.
not, you know, disclosing what they do in the privacy of the home because they want
Right.
to get a keep good job.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't want their kids to get bullied at school.
Mm-hmm.
She said,
Mm-hmm.
when they said they had to leave early to pick their kids up, they were going to Juma.
Right, right. Exactly. That's how my son every Friday. Yes.
So you just
Yep.
don't know
Mm-hmm.
what does a Muslim really look like.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I thought the books was to represent the world.
Mm.
So you in your community, is your child gonna grow up and still be in your house? You got another problem. I'm gonna need them to be able to to understand the
Right.
world.
Yes. Yes.
I need the children to understand the world.
Yep.
And of course, as a parent, you have the right to say what your child can and cannot
Of
read.
course. Right.
But it has to be available to the public, not only because it exists, but because the public libraries themselves are saying that they're equitable.
Yeah. Mm.
Publishing companies not saying that they're equitable.
Right.
The public libraries are equity, diversity, and inclusion. Equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's
Mm.
ziggered. It's constantly stated.
Mm-hmm.
But the statements and the actions are not aligning, in my opinion. And even if you Google right now, how many how many books in the public libraries of America are Islamic are considered Islamic literature? They
Yeah.
say 1% or less. So that, and mind you, this is people who are not even Muslim who
Mm.
came up with that, which means I would argue significantly less. Because
Mm.
how is someone who does not understand Islam
Yeah.
be able to know what qualifies as what is the standard of Islamic literature? Right
Mm.
now, that doesn't exist. So
Mm.
that's one of the missions of the Islamic Library Association is to
Okay.
actually make a standard of what Islamic literature is. Because right now, there's books in the library with beautiful girls in the front, beautiful young ladies with hijabs on, but you open it up, the whole story is about her boyfriend life.
Mm.
So that's not Islamic literature. Now, I'm not saying no Muslims don't have no boyfriends or no girlfriends, but I'm
Right.
saying that that's not Islamic literature at
Mm-hmm.
that point.
Okay. Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Um, but it's not just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's racially impacted as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the books that are in the library of that have Muslims in it are primarily they're 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 they're, they're not black.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
are some we can name off a couple of authors whose books are in the
Mm-hmm.
library.
I
What's her
got
name?
one.
Jamila. Oh, is her last name
Look at this.
Thomas? And there's a few.
I got this book. Is this book in you all's library?
I don't think we have that book.
This
Good.
book right here literally goes into it's Muslim cool, race, religion, and hip hop in the United States. And I didn't read this whole book. I read some of it, but Dr. Swad Abdul Kabir, she's talking about how you have that aspect of that Muslim cool, and a lot of it came from a lot of our people who did convert. Some people say revert, I say convert. Doesn't matter either way. You became Muslim, and a
Yes.
lot of them became Muslim through listening to hip hop and them talking because, as we know, that the birth of hip hop was more from a conscious perspective, the upliftment of our people. So I just wanted to share that. But yeah, please go ahead.
That's amazing. That is one good book. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we saying this one book?
Right. Exactly. I
Why are we
yes,
saying this one book?
totally
That is the
concur.
problem right there.
Yeah.
That is the
Mm-hmm.
problem, that there should be it, and I've said several times, to me, the idea of equity when it comes to literature
Yeah.
is a child can go over to the children's department,
Mm-hmm.
close their eyes,
Mm-hmm.
reach on the shelf. The odds are equally the same to
Mm-hmm.
pick up a book about anybody, any type of person
Mm-hmm.
in that book. Right
Yeah.
now, that's not the case.
Mm.
And within that literature that they get to select from, there would be Black people and Muslims that will be included,
Right. Right.
and the intersectionality of both. But all of that needs to be available and accessible. And
Mm-hmm.
and not only is it about picking, having the exact number, it's
Mm-hmm.
also for Muslims, and this is my opinion, as Muslims, so much of our life revolves around the word ikra,
Mm.
which
Which
means
is which is
read,
what? There you go.
read.
Yes, indeed.
So much of our life revolves around ikra. We can go on and on about how it was said to the Holy Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, we can go into that. That's a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
podcast show.
Right. Right. Right.
But that point right there,
Mm-hmm.
the emphasis and the importance and what that manifested for all of us today,
Mm-hmm.
just on the word read.
Yeah.
Yet being here, we can't read about ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding. So it's religious, it's
Mm-hmm.
cultural, it's racial, it's human.
Mm, I love that.
We do not have accessibility to what is our rights as human beings.
Mm, because we have the right to read.
Yes,
That's
we
our
do.
God-given right.
God given right.
And and speaking, of course, the whole conversation, I don't even have to have a segue because our whole conversation is based around reading and literacy. We need to know, when did you decide to become a librarian? And I'm thinking, and the reason why is because number one, I'm thinking number one, that is a beautiful profession to enter. However, I think back when I was a kid, I think about them librarians. I'm like, that was, kind of the older woman, in the community, right? And
Yes.
it didn't seem like the funnest profession to enter. And you
Mhm.
are very lively, you're gorgeous, outspoken. You don't seem like the quote unquote typical librarian. But when did you decide to enter into the profession?
Already full blown adult. It was not my first profession.
Oh,
I did healthcare for 10
oh,
years. Yes.
oh, wow, okay.
I worked in healthcare for 10 years.
Okay.
Um, Liked it.
Wait, repeat that.
I liked it. I
Yeah,
like
okay.
healthcare.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but I didn't feel passionate about it. It was a
Mm,
nice check.
okay.
Um, Really everything happens for a reason. So I would say, honestly, I probably would have stayed and just compromised and stayed for the sake of convenience. I had a good job. I was
Mm,
taking care of my children, things
mm,
like that.
mm,
But I had a choice to make. The hours was not working for my life. My children's needs changed, and I needed to make a change, and it wasn't working with my job. So
mm.
I said, which is more important, my babies or my job? So I said, my babies.
Come on.
So I'm not just going to just go and throw the whole life away.
Of course.
So what I decided, come up with a plan. And ultimately, I saved some money
Mm,
and quit.
mm. Okay. Okay.
But honestly, God, did not have enough time to think about what else I wanted to do.
Mm. Okay.
So
Okay.
when I did that, I said to myself, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm thinking. And I said,
Right.
so I loved school. Goes back to the constant reading. And then many of
Mm.
my friends, like even when I'm in school, I never really used the plan that my academic advisor would give me. I'd
Okay.
make it my own self because I thought I knew better.
Mm.
Make it work. I knew how to make it work for
Right.
me.
Right.
So my friends would ask me when they were going to school, oh, please, okay, show me your classes. Yeah, you need to swap those and ask her if you can do these and then. So I was like, well, I'm going to be an academic advisor. I would get paid
Wow.
to do that. I'll have a better schedule. I'm going to be an academic advisor. Would have been a pay cut, but it would have worked out for the things I needed to do with the kids.
Okay.
So I started applying for academic advisor positions, and then you have like jobs, similar jobs. A
Yeah.
library job popped up.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I clicked on it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this was like open for like months. They probably just forgot to remove it. So I called them the next day and they're like, oh, yeah, it's still open. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I had to like convert my skills. So even though I was in healthcare, I was in the administrative side.
Okay.
So I converted those skills over into what I was applying for at the library was actually, I don't remember my exact title, but I think it was like a uh, tech assistant,
Mm.
technology assistant. So I
Okay.
was working in the computer lab. So
Mm.
I didn't even know how to like interview for this job because it was none of my previous type experience. But I got the job. And
Mm.
even then, so at the same time, I got offered an academic advisor position job. At the
Okay.
same time, the academic advisor was full time and the library was part time. And so I was like, oh, this is tough. I want to be in the library, but it's
Okay.
only part time. I was like, well, I don't like part-time, then I'll try to get another job. And
Right.
so I got in there and loved it. And it still wasn't me. I still didn't know I was going to be a librarian. It was the lady who hired me, the HR lady, came to me 2 months later and was like, Khalisah, you have your master's, right? I said, yeah, because at the time I had a master's of organizational management.
Okay.
And so she was like, I said, yeah. She says, well, when are you getting your next one? When are you getting your master's in library science? I was like, and she was like, Khalisah, just give a little bit more time, but I think you would be great. I really want you to think about it. I'm like, whatever. Honestly, I didn't think about it. So after 3 months, after my 90 days, I became full time. And then I started moving to different branches within the system.
Mm.
Just I started just loving it, kept getting higher positions. And I'm
Okay.
like, this is great. And then I homeschooled my kids, so they was with me. And so
Wow. See.
I
Mm.
would drive to work with my kids in the back seat. We all, we get in the library. And then it was even better
Right.
than being home because I could spy on them from the computers up at the front desk.
Yeah.
It's fun. So, make sure they were doing their schoolwork. But that's how I got into the library world. Honestly, so she convinced me. Actually, I started thinking about it and I went and got my master's. I got my second master's in library information science and loved it. Love it. Love it. I
Mm.
still love all that it does, but being okay, so the neighborhood, the town that I was in at the time, not many a very Caucasian town.
That sounds like go. This is real
So
reading talk, honey. Say it. I can
fine.
only imagine.
Yes, yes, especially and it is also. I'm not saying this to be funny. 90% of librarians are middle class Caucasian women.
Makes sense.
So there is
Like the
a
teachers.
very deep culture
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
within public libraries, and it's very difficult. So there are many people of color who go into public libraries and they immediately get out of there. They
Mm.
can't hang. But I said, that's okay. That wasn't my personal experience. I've had some amazing coworkers.
Okay.
Um, I'm in a different library system now,
Okay.
but I still have very good friends. It's actually closer to my house, so I still go over there and visit them. Hey, girl, what you doing? So
That's
I go over there
dope.
and hang out from time to time. But
That's dope.
I, the library side, so people would come to me when they had questions because I was the only Muslim that they ever saw.
Mm.
I don't want to say they ever saw, but I guess they
Right.
get used to me because I used to work circulation then. So they'd come up and, oh, well, and they'd ask questions and I'd have to answer and, things like that.
Right.
And then Muslims who were there would come and ask me for books that we didn't have. We don't have these.
Mm.
I can't get these books. So I kept thinking that my next job would be higher up. I can get more Islamic books. Well, I was saying
Yeah.
Muslim books at the time to myself. But then I'll get Muslim books. Then I'll get
Yeah.
Muslim books. Then I'm a whole I run an entire branch now. I still do not have much say as to what comes into my library
Mm.
because it's not a library issue, it's a systemic issue.
That's right.
And that's where the Islamic Library. So honestly, providing books, I've been doing that from my own library of
Mm.
books for years,
Mm.
not knowing that it would lead to ultimately the Islamic Library Association. But I've always provided my own books. My kids outgrew certain little kid books and things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your baby need this, yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, she'll like this one, he'll like this one. So I've
Right.
been doing that for years, providing books and resources and direction as a librarian. Well, you should go here and buy it. But why do I have to refer my people where to buy a book when everybody else has theirs sitting in this building for free?
Yeah. That
So
part. That part. That
So,
part.
but again, where are the mirrors and windows?
Yeah.
Because we're seeing you all everyone else's books, but no one, like I said, is seeing us, whether it's a racial book or a religious book. And something that I have noticed is that when I was saying Muslim books,
Mm.
I felt that a lot of people thought that it was for one only for Muslims, and two, when I'm in like bigger settings, even when I say Islamically faith-based books, even
Mm-hmm.
then they still look at it or think of it as far as their reaction is concerned. I feel that they're looking at it as conversion material. So I have to sit and break down that, okay, every book that you have is actually in a Christian based foundation. So it might not be a convert. There's a whole Christian fiction section in my library. How come I can't provide a whole Muslim fiction section? Because we have books across all genres
Right.
and intergenerationally.
Mm-hmm.
Those books exist. So why are those not available in the public libraries? The
Mm.
same, and I try to give examples of, okay, a child should be able to pick up a book and see people talking about Fajr. Because
Right.
that's what they do in their home. They should be talking about Maghrib or Ramadan or the Eid or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And it's even if it's not that specific,
Mm-hmm.
the context is there where they feel the environment, their life. They feel their life in the book. It doesn't always have to be so explicitly, you know, on Eid, we did
Exactly.
this. You know,
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be
Right.
always that specific, but we have Islamic literature across all genres. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like horror, you know, things like that. But there's halal romance books. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's, there's some comic graphic novels,
Mm-hmm.
there's poetry, there's life skills, all
Mm-hmm.
these things that we have, marriage books across the gamut. It's just like every other book. It's
Mm-hmm.
just from an Islamic foundation,
Mm-hmm.
even if that's not so broadly stated.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do try to clear up that misconception that I feel is often uh, in people's minds who don't understand it. And
Mm-hmm.
even it's not just Islamically based, racially. Even though there's so many, I don't want to say so many, but even though many people are talking about racial equity in books,
Mm-hmm.
there's still like a void. There's a void.
Mm-hmm.
And so, people who do work such as yourself to bring those, to make that point, because it is so important, it is vital, it is incumbent upon us as adults.
Yeah.
Your race doesn't matter, your religion doesn't matter as adults, and to have a better life for the current and future generations of our children, of
Yeah.
society. And this comes through reading. If reading and literature was not important, they wouldn't have kept it from the Black people.
And even though our people, and that's the thing that I try to drive home too, is the people that were our African ancestors who were stolen. A lot of them, I know researchers have said like 10%, 20%. Now they're saying like 30%, and it probably was even more that were taken from Africa, from Western Africa, and that were Muslim, where literacy was on a high level, where books were worth more than gold. The Library of Timbuktu, you're talking about Sankore University, you're
Yes.
talking about literacy on a high level, and literacy does not equate to you knowing English. Because folks like to, they get it twisted. It's like, no, somebody may not be literate in English, but they're literate in their own language. They're literate in Spanish, right? They're literate in Arabic.
Other languages. A lot of those
Exactly.
Africans speak like three,
And they
four
speak exactly
languages.
Wolof, right? You have other languages that they know,
Yes.
they just aren't
Mhm.
literate in English. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Mhm.
I mean, you're bringing up excellent points. I wanted to ask also, though, so is that the reason why, in terms of, give us the back story in terms of you founding the Islamic Library Association? When did you when did you develop it and create it?
Like I kind of stated a little bit before, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
in motion before I gave it a name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it was in me a whole lot long before even I realized,
Yep.
you know, you know, what all I was really doing or what I was
Mm-hmm.
really passionate about. I think it was just naturally there and just manifesting itself over time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and life happens, Allah does as He wills, and there's different times for different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what really brought it for me, um, I was told that a new rule
Mm-hmm.
or guideline was to have a certain type of display in the library.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I said that I was not going to make that display because that was against my religion. They said, no problem.
Okay.
Someone else in the library can do it.
Okay.
And okay, no problem. But then I had, well, how come we don't have one for a required Ramadan display? How come we don't have a required Eid display? How come it's not required? Like
Mm,
you're actually telling me this is a requirement.
requirement. Wow.
Oh, I have to do this in the library. So why? I mean, we struggling with Black History Month books,
Right.
okay?
Yep.
But somehow we got enough books for every branch to have this required display.
Mm-hmm.
And so I brought this up as an example because, like, let's say we want to do a Ramadan display.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who do a Ramadan display, and I have to take all the books from all the branches because there's only what I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
15. So that's gonna just be all the books. It's not enough books in the library for every branch to do a display. You see
Wow.
what my point?
Yeah, I see your
But
point.
but back to what I was saying
And over
was
1.8 billion people around the globe are Muslim. I just want to
correct.
just share that with the people. Like,
And according to statistics,
yeah,
doesn't mean it's always accurate, but it's
right.
the fastest growing religion
It
in the
is.
world. So
It is.
okay. But
Yeah.
I'll just sit that right there. But
Right. Yes. Yes,
so when I
indeed.
brought up that well, we don't have required Ramadan and Eid displays. I was giving different examples. He
Hmm.
said, "Oh, well, we have Arab Heritage Month." I was done. I was floored. I sat there. I almost just passed out, and I was like, now I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do with myself? Which Khalisah am I
Hmm.
bringing today? Because it was too much.
Yeah.
And so I really honestly did not address it in that setting because I was just done.
Yeah.
I requested an additional meeting
Hmm.
and came back. It was less people. It was less people because that was at a big managers meeting when that particular thing happened. When we said we had the new required display.
Okay.
So I had a smaller meeting and
Mm.
said, um, every Arab is not Muslim, and every Muslim is not Arab. So what does Heritage Month have to do with an Islamic display?
Yeah.
And then I always get the look like, it's forever there, it seems like. And so it was really with that required display that I was like, I'm over it. I didn't even know that I was that, I
Mm.
don't say upset, but honestly, it's hurtful.
Mm.
It's hurtful that I requested to do something against my religion as a requirement, and my religion is not even acknowledged.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
hurtful to me.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel.
Mm.
And I don't think I'm the only one, but I would say I'm a very small percentage of people who have to sit in those meetings under, these types of human, just, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm me.
Yeah.
And sometimes the question is like, no one's ever said this. And like I said, I've always pretty much had very good coworkers.
Yeah.
But is that because of my personality?
Mm.
Because it's only so far.
Mm.
Well, you know,
Right.
it's, you know,
So when
yeah.
did you so just to so when was it founded? When did you actually
It was legally founded as a nonprofit organization last year, 2024.
okay. And so what service does the Islamic Library Association provide for the community?
Right now, so there's a lot of things looking forward, but right now, I'm really interviewing. I'm gonna tell a little bit of a backstory so you can understand what I'm saying, and not just like you don't understand, but
Yeah,
context.
yeah, for sure.
Um, the American Library Association is the governing body of all libraries within the United States of America.
Okay.
So public libraries, school libraries, academic libraries, law
Hmm.
library. The American Library Association governs all of them.
Okay.
And they have, I don't know the exact number, around 115 different committees,
Mm. Okay.
over 50,000 members.
Mm.
And these committees and members, they discuss tons of, it's broken down to so many different things that
Mhm.
pretty much covers um, intellectual freedoms, equity and diversity, marginalized communities, um, just tons of things. And it's very specific to public libraries,
Mhm.
children, academic library. It's broken down to, that's why they have 115 different committees. But you know, out
Okay.
of over 115 committees, there is now one that focuses on Islamic literature, nor is Muslims one of the specific marginalized groups that's discussed.
I'm not
So
surprised, to be honest with you. Again, I'm not surprised. And that's why when you said the Islamic Library Association is something you founded, I'm like, well, because to me, that's always my answer, right? I look at it like I'm not going to keep trying to fit myself. That's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. When you see that some, or keep trying to knock at the door, let me into your party, please. You don't want me there, and that's okay. But I understand what you're saying, though, in terms of I believe we do have to have both in terms of you pushing your way into a place because of the fact, hey, we're still here in the society, right? We got to work. We got to, have our deal with our businesses or whatever it is that we're doing. So yes, to demand and say, hey, look, we need to be represented. That's very important. But for you to come up with this concept, the Islamic Library Association, is very, very important, to have our own. So yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
the American Library Association also has affiliates.
Okay.
Affiliates are people who have their own organizations that go under their umbrella because the
Mm.
American Library Association is the governing body throughout the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to give an idea, there so a lot of them are racial
Mm-hmm.
and very topic specific.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, if we're talking about Islam,
Mm-hmm.
then we'd have to go to religion,
Mm-hmm.
not race, and age. That's different. So to talk about religion, so as far as their religious committees, there are some. I think they're affiliates, but either way, they're under the umbrella. There's one specifically for Catholics,
Okay.
and one for just Christians in general.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Jewish committee. Now, according to statistics, there's more Muslims than Jews in America.
Yeah, yes, I can
It
see that
doesn't really
definitely.
matter about more or less.
More, yes,
It's not the
exactly.
point that there are other religious
Right.
affiliations
Mm-hmm.
underneath the American Library Association.
And Islam
So
has always been considered one of the three monotheistic, meaning the worship of one God, religious, practices. So yes. Mm-hmm.
so with that, the actual goal of the American, well, one of the primary goals of the Islamic Library Association is
Mm-hmm.
to become affiliated so that there can be, again, a standard created of what Islamic literature really is, and
Okay.
policies become implemented to make sure that Islamic literature is included within the public library system throughout the nation. Because
Okay.
I could just, and I'm not saying be just automatically successful, but let's just say that I hammered hard at my library.
Mm-hmm.
That would only impact my library.
It'll impact your library.
What about when I die?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
about the other library at the
Yeah.
system across the street?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it needs to be uniformity the same
Mm-hmm.
way, just like if the same books you have in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
I probably have the same books because it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of uniformity and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the policies need to be established
Mm-hmm.
across the nation because we're everywhere.
Right.
It's not just a my library system issue.
Mm-hmm.
So to fix the problem, you got to go to the root. We have to go to the people who are the governing body of the library, which
Mm-hmm.
is the American Library Association. And so to reel it back in to answer your question,
Yes.
you said, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, to be affiliated,
Mm-hmm.
they told me that I had to show proof that there's a want and need for Islamic literature.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. See, okay,
correct.
there you
Even
are. Okay.
though
Okay.
all the requirements have been met,
Mm.
um, well, the requirements that are listed on their website, you can get on there and Google it, it's there. But
Mm.
so in order to do that, the best way I felt to do that was to interview these authors, publishers, illustrators, and educators who've done the work. Let's talk about the
Oh,
people who have done the books exist. I'm not asking to create new books. I'm saying the books are here, they should be
this
included in
is
the
right.
library.
Right.
So
Right.
I've gone to the people who have the amazing Muslim authors, publishers, illustrators, and
Mm.
educators who this is what they do. They create these books.
Mm.
They bring life to the books, and I get them to tell their stories as to why they create these books. Because
Mm.
most of the every single Muslim author that I've interviewed thus far
Mm-hmm.
and talked to, that like their interviews haven't come out yet.
Mm.
They all have a story that's similarly based. The story may look different, sound
Mm.
different, but it still comes in the root of I didn't see myself.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I did not see myself. And a lot of the authors I have found have thought that the library just didn't like their book.
Okay.
Didn't realize the systemic barriers
Yeah.
as to why their books really aren't in the public libraries. So I try to state different things that can be done, and that's part of what the Islamic Library Association, what part of the intent is to not only get the books in the library, that's the
Mm-hmm.
first step. So
Okay.
it's just like Black literature when people say, "Oh, our Black books aren't in the library,"
Yeah, that's exactly.
because the publishing companies are not accepting their manuscript. So a lot of authors, a lot of Black authors are self-published
Yeah.
or go
Mm-hmm.
under what they call indie author publishing companies.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't get, they're not in the top five. Not, they're not the top five publishing companies, and
Mm.
those are the top five publishing companies are the ones whose books primarily get into the public libraries. So you have the top five publishing companies, and then there's distribution companies who's like the middleman between public libraries and the books. There's like
Okay.
a middle guy,
Okay.
and but the middle guy, I don't want to say what all they do, but primarily are getting books from the top five publishers. Well, what happened to all these other people that was excluded?
Mm.
So now people are winning awards. And it didn't even start of books because
Mm.
there are all books over here that was not included. But
Mm.
so it's the same exact concept. The biggest barrier that's bigger for Islamic literature than Black literature,
Yeah.
because it starts off the same,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's like an additional caveat in the end where, let's say, for whatever miraculous manifestations, and their books do get in the public libraries.
Yeah.
Well, then there's another issue because now the catalogers don't know the tag words. So when they put it
Mm.
into the system, it's not shelved
Oh.
properly.
Mm.
And so then let's say there's a book that would work perfect for you, and you knew the title, or you knew what the title was kind of like. You couldn't remember exactly what it
Right.
was. And so you type it in and be like, something like blah 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 blah, and then it'll
Right.
say it won't bring it up because the person who cataloged it are not aware of the highlight words and what words being what to tag the book under to catalog
Okay.
it properly so that
Mm.
who's looking for it can find it.
Mm.
So that means even if it's in the library, you might not. It's additional. There's more. If you didn't find it, that means you didn't check it out. And then there's readers that come around. And what do? They pull up the system, and the books that weren't checked out in however many times, they are discarded. So even if your book gets into that library system, it's a very high chance that you're not going to find it and it'll be discarded. Discarded means no longer available. They throw it away, give it away, sell it, something for 10 cents after all that hard work you did. So there's a lot to it. It's not just get
Mm.
them in there, it's get them in there, shove them properly, display them properly. Because right now, there's no requirement for the displays. So
Wow.
a lot of books are known by display because especially when
Yeah.
they're not, like if you're already a big, huge, popular author, okay, people may already know you and may
Right.
specifically look for you.
Right.
But if they're
Right.
not accustomed to some of this Islamic literature, they might not the chances are very low that they would be found and properly checked out.
Hmm. Honey, you.
So that's what the Islamic Library Association plans to do. Library Association plans to get these things to where it can be have an opportunity to be selected by the selectors.
Okay.
Well, actually, for public libraries to create contracts with Muslim publishing companies,
Okay.
or
Okay.
have them included with the because you can't make the middle distributor get those books,
Right.
but the public libraries, I keep saying it because it's so, the public libraries are who's screaming that they're equitable. So if you're equitable but your
Mm.
distributor is not, make some, that's when you have to go and you get your own contract with a Muslim publishing company.
Mm.
And when you get your books from the Muslim publishing company, then you got to make sure you have the right selectors that's going to make sure they pick, because you can have a contract with them. That don't mean they're going to pick them. So you have to have people who's going to make sure they select some books from
Mm.
there. They got to
Mm.
make sure you have a cataloger who's going to know how to catalog the book. And we can talk about the Dewey Decimal System and just throw that away in the trash, but that's a whole different
I
conversation.
know,
But
right?
that's
Ooh.
them. And then after it's cataloged, make sure it's cataloged properly. We have to have the displays and have an adequate amount of books on specific topics, because otherwise they'll just get lost in the sea of books. We don't want them discarded. So it's a lot of steps, and that's okay because it's not
Yeah.
too big to be done. It can be done once, those things are, people are, I don't want to say allowed, but when the system is no longer creating barriers to people having access to the mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors that Dr. Bishop talks about.
Well, that we was as we already know and seeing the climate, the continuing climate of this country, we don't see that happening. Okay. So we just gonna keep that real a buck on Real Reading Talk. That's why you are here educating us. And we definitely appreciate your work, honey, because you are definitely needed. You are the voice. You are the one. You don't mind speaking out. You are an advocate. And that's what I wanted our people to hear, because you need to give a whole master class for real on how the library system works, and all of that, breaking that down. Because this was absolutely phenomenal. A lot of different things I know I did not know. And I'm glad that you are on here to talk about that. Because again, this is Real Reading Talk. This is where we're talking about promoting literacy. We need to know that backstory as to why, when we go into these libraries, whether you are looking for Islamic literature, you're looking for literature that is rooted in African history or culture, experiences, traditions, especially again, when we have this high levels of illiteracy in the Black community. And one of the reasons why is because, like what you said earlier, our folks are not being reflected, especially for kids. Okay,
Yes,
they need to,
definitely.
again, they need to be grounded in that. So all of this information, sis, I know we can go on and on. I'm gonna have you drop the mic right there, because you brought it home with everything that you were saying. And plus two, I want people now to I want you to leave your information as to where they can find you and ways in which they can help. Are you all a 501c3 organization? Okay, so you all
Yes.
accept donations and everything for
Yes.
what you're doing. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't mind, please giving us the social media where we can find you, and the website as well.
Okay. We are on what the Islamic Library Association is on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And it's Islamic Library Association across the board. That's the name on all the platforms. There is a website. It's ILA-US
Okay.
.org. And you can go on there and join, be a member. There will be perks coming on the website soon, like member benefits and things like that, where you'd be able to have pretty much a curated book list of Islamic literature, where you won't have to go through the other library system and then have to select like decipher through what's acceptable for your children to read or for what you're looking for as an adult. Everything on there will be technically considered, I don't want to only use the word Islamic literature, but clean literature,
Okay.
because that's for everyone,
Right.
Um, but to become a member, ultimately, when we reapply for affiliation under the American Library Association, they
Okay.
will want to know how many members and followers on the social media. So
Okay.
there will
Okay.
be more member perks. So I'd
Good.
say within 2 weeks, it's being done now. So the
Okay.
website you see now will be completely different within 2 weeks. But again, you can follow the live. Right now, the lives are on Instagram, but those
Okay.
will be across all three platforms and YouTube coming up as well. So there's a lot of changes coming up, but the intention and the foundation is there now. It's here. It's, it's not just for Muslims, it's for everyone. It's for true equity, or to have the Islamic literature included in the inclusive efforts that are being made within the public library world. And we just should be a part of that. And so just helping, any way to help, you can donate, which would help us towards what we're doing.
Mhm.
It's myself and the board. It's not just me. I have a board.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
also, when you go into your public library, have a list. Have a list
Mhm.
of Muslim literature, the Muslim authors, and you say,
Mhm.
we need these. And tell them. But ask for the manager, give
Okay.
her or him that list, and
Okay.
then come back next month and say it again. And then print it out and give it to all your friends and tell them to go to the library and do it. So
Okay.
that's working from the back end.
Mm.
Patron requests.
Okay.
Patron requests. Not like one time and walk away. I know we wish it would be that easy, but
Mhm.
if we're coming from the the side of the governing political policies and all of that side, it has
Yes.
to come from the other side as well to say, yes, we do want this. So, and
Okay.
if you know any authors, illustrators, publishers, educators,
Mhm.
send them my way. We are here for anyone. If you have any questions, you can reach me on any of those platforms. And
Okay.
yes,
Thank you. Thank
yes,
you. We appreciate everything that you're doing, and we appreciate you giving us and modeling for us the blueprint as for advocacy, especially in what we call the People's University, right? The public libraries, which is open
yes.
for everyone.
The public, correct.
That's right. Thank you once again, Sister
Thank
Khalisah. It
you.
has been an absolute pleasure. You have been a chock full of knowledge, honey. You just was bringing it. That's why I said, I'm just going to be quiet and I want you go ahead and do your thing. And that's what I'm
Oh
talking
my
about.
God. Well, I really appreciate you having me here talking about it. I can talk about books and literacy forever. But I
Yes.
really appreciate you allowing me coming here, you inviting me, and
Yes.
getting to talk about one of my favorite topics.
Yes.
And again, what you do is amazing as well. And you've been publicly doing it a whole lot longer than me, you
Oh,
know. So, and I mean, what you do is amazing because even just like we said, it's like Black history is Muslim history.
that's
And I
right.
know you talk a lot about the Black literature, and I'm there too.
That's
I'm on
right.
those committees as well with ALA.
Hello.
Okay, so
That's
I'm
right.
not only Muslim. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of me. Yes,
Thank
it's the
you.
best part of me, but there's
Exactly.
other parts of me,
Hello.
that makes me all one whole person. And so
Yes.
when you talk about that, and that's how I found, like, I support Black literature 100%.
That's right.
Again, like I said, I'm on those committees as well, and so I
Mhm.
was like, this is my thing.
That's right.
It's amazing. I love it. The children love it. You love it. So
That's
we'll
what's
make a
up.
better change, inshallah.
I love it. Thank you. Well, again, you all, once again, you know how I do. I love to bring great guests on the show. And I hope that you all, again, gained lots of insight, a lot of knowledge, and empowerment and education. So, y'all know what to do. And whatever information you didn't get, you always know, or you forgot, whatever, press rewind, go back, have your notebooks, have your pens, okay? Because she literally was giving us the tools and the strategies on how to be able to get the books that we want to see in these libraries that reflect us. All right. So I thank you all again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Ms. Seisha. And again, Real Reading Talk is the place in which we discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, the very foundation as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together, y'all. Thank you all again. And remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace. Of course, the advocacy, the empowerment, the education is real, y'all, on Real Reading Talk. And once again, if you don't have your notebooks and pens when you are listening to the show, I'm just going to remind you to make sure that you do that, okay? Because I'm about bringing that education and that knowledge. And I love when my guests are coming on here and empowering our communities. So some housekeeping. If you're looking for a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, please go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. Click on that free reading assessment so that I can help your baby get those foundational reading skills that they need so that they can become strong, successful readers. And make sure that you check out our website, abcread.org, which is the nonprofit organization that I started over 10 years ago. We've given away very, very, very close to 8,000 books and counting. All right, books that are culturally relevant, books that represent the people that we serve, all right, here in the city of Cleveland. So go check us out. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom. There's a plethora, a multitude of read alouds that you can choose from. And also, of course, the Real Reading Talk podcast is on there. Okay. And then you all see the merch, Reading is Freedom, the mug. You all check out the hoodies. Yes, indeed, the shirts. Make sure that you go to readingisfreedomshop.com. Click on your item and make your purchase, y'all, all right? Because we need to make sure that we are promoting that literacy as much as we can within our communities. And the book that I am finishing up reading is Rest is Resistance. So I'm still reading that. We are literally about to have our book club ending. All right, I just want to show you guys how to get out of my purse. Bam! Free yourself from grind culture and reclaim your life. Trisha Hurston, okay? This book, life-changing. You need to grab it, okay? Seriously, make sure that you do that. And then I want to leave you all with the quote. I like that. I love that quote that Sister Khalisah had gave, and I'm trying to find it. She said it was from Dr. Bishop, an educator, and I'm going to find that quote. But if I cannot, let's see. Here it is. She said, books should be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. Okay? Wow. And make sure, again, you check out, when you are listening to the episode, you already know, she was explaining that concept of what books, how they should be. And that was just phenomenal. So I appreciate you guys again for listening. And make sure, again, that you please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember,